Is it permitted to put together a jigsaw puzzle on Shabbos? So the obvious question that comes up with playing with a jigsaw puzzle is that by placing the pieces of the puzzle together, one forms and creates either a letter, a word, a picture, and it is questioned whether this transgresses the prohibition against writing on Shabbos, and the same would apply to taking apart a puzzle on Shabbos if doing so transgresses the erasing prohibition. So to understand this subject, we must first introduce a number of laws regarding the laws of writing and erasing. As we know, it's forbidden to write or erase the letters of a word on Shabbos, and it is likewise forbidden to draw or erase a picture on Shabbos. Hence, bringing up the question regarding the puzzle. It's recorded in the Shulchanaruchharav that this prohibition applies, at least rabbinically, even if the word being written or erased is only there for temporary purpose and will not last a long time. So the fact that a puzzle is put together and taken apart after a few moments will not make it any more lenient, at least from a rabbinical perspective, regarding its law, as even temporary writing is prohibited. So what is then the question regarding if putting together a puzzle is allowed? So the question that comes up is as follows. Although, as we stated, there is at least a rabbinical prohibition involved in writing even temporarily, perhaps that applies only when one creates everything from scratch. But if I have pieces of a letter already existing before Shabbos, and all I do is I bring them together, then perhaps it should be permitted. Maybe in such a case the Chacham and the sages did not make their decree. Or perhaps even in such a case the decree was made. So we find in the Shulchan Aruch and the Poskim a dispute recorded regarding a similar case, which is the case in which letters or pictures were written on the side of a book, and when you open the book, it takes apart the letter, takes apart the picture. When you close it, you have a full letter, a full picture. May this book be opened or closed on Shabbos? And some Poskim say yes, it may, and other Poskim say it may not, as we discussed in length in the previous halacha regarding this topic. The Alter Rebbe in the Shulchan Aruch records both opinions, and he concludes that the minhag is the hakil, the custom is to be lenient, although the Achreinim write that this is not lichatchila, meaning that initially one should avoid writing on the side of books, and one shouldn't open up this book if he has another book available of the same kind, such as two chamashim, one with the letters, one without. Take the one without the letters. Avoid the dispute initially. Based on all this, we can now analyze the decision regarding whether or not you can take apart or put together jigsaw puzzles on Shabbos. At the very least, it would hold under the same machlekes that we previously mentioned, with some saying it's mutter, some saying it's aser. And according to the prohibiting opinions, certainly by a jigsaw puzzle it would be prohibited as well. Although the question comes up, is it permitted according to the lenient opinion we just mentioned that permits opening and closing the books? Would they also permit putting together and taking apart a puzzle? So this matter itself is disputed amongst today's poskim. Some poskim say that perhaps this case would be prohibited even according to the lenient approaches, as in this case one is intentionally placing the pieces together for the sake of creating a letter, for the sake of creating a picture, as well as by a book. The pages are close together, they're bound. But by a puzzle, the pieces are spread apart, and it's not considered as close to each other as is in the bookcase, which is the whole Yesod foundation of the allowance. So rules of Al Yashav brought in Shalom Yehuda 5.3, and so is the opinion of Bris Olam, Oz Nidbru, and Nigas Moshe regarding the prohibition in placing torn pages together, which would similarly be regarding a puzzle. Other poskim have a rule that the same leniency applies in this case as well, as the main thing is that the parts of the letter and picture were created before Shabbos. It's very easy to put them together, and therefore the sages did not make a decree in such a case. So rules the Ber Moshe 626, Yisod Yeshurun, Shemish V'Askil Chasam, Mishnah Halachis, and other Achreinim of today. So practically, what should one do? We see that there is another dispute involved here in this case, where the jigsaw puzzles may be put together, taken apart on Shabbos. And bottom line is that certainly lechatchila, an adult should be stringent and avoid putting together and taking apart jigsaw puzzles on Shabbos, and not enter into the machlekes and paiskin. Although those who are lenient certainly have upon whom to rely, and certainly regarding children, young children, there is much room to be lenient to allow them to play with such puzzles on Shabbos. One should note that the above discussion of prohibition is only in a case where a picture or a letter is created through putting the pieces together. But in a case where there's no pictures and it's simply letters, and each piece contains an individual letter, there is no writing prohibition involved in placing the letters near each other, even though they create a word. As the writing prohibition is only against making a full picture or against putting together a letter, and not against placing letters together to put together a word.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page.